The next time you're driving down South Peoria through Tulsa's Brookside area, look for the blue and white awning that marks Color Connections Gallery. This gallery is owned and operated by 10 local Tulsa artists. I'm Barbara Cohenour. Stay tuned for Focus on Art as we visit Color Connections Gallery. My first guest this morning is Dian Church. She's one of the artists and co-owners here at Color Connections Gallery. Hi, Dian. Welcome to Focus on Art.
We're so glad you're here this morning, Barbara.
Well, we appreciate your having us down and letting us see what's happening here on South Peoria. I know this is a group of artists, 10, I believe.
Yes.
And how in the world do you get 10 artists together to create a gallery?
Well, we all have a common goal, and that is to express our own individuality in our paintings.
Well, it's a wonderful group. I've had just a moment to look around. One thing that you mentioned was individuality.
Right.
And that certainly seems to be an important part of your exhibit. It's not 10 artists that are doing the exact same thing.
That's true. We all have different techniques. We all have different motivations for our paintings, and we want to express ourselves as well.
Well, now with those different ideas, does that make it hard for all 10 of you to make decisions about the gallery?
You might think that, but we do have a meeting once a month, and we air our interests that we want to do, and we have already formed our yearly plan, and we vote. It's all very democratic, majority rules. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
Okay, well that sounds great. You've been here for 3 years, so
yes.
Obviously you're doing a good job of getting along.
Well, I think so. We're starting our 4th year, and I really think we're better friends than we've ever been.
Wonderful. Now, you do exhibit artists that are not part of this group,
That's
right?
true. That's true. We have three-dimensional work, pottery that you can see here. This is a pottery piece by Ray Dunn, and this is a necklace here by Virginia Lewis. And over here we have a pottery piece by Larry Elledge. We carry three-dimensional pieces too. It enhances our artwork as well as gives other people an opportunity to get out and sell their work.
Okay, but the 10 members of the co-op are two-dimensional artists. You're
yes,
painters,
we're all painters, yes.
and you do pastels and drawing and other things like that.
We run the gamut from watercolor to pastels to printmaking to, but we all have original work. We do no prints as such. We have one printmaker. All of her things are hand-pulled on her press.
All right. Well, what I'd like to do is start and meet some of the artists and take a look at what they're doing.
Wonderful.
Dian, who are we going to meet first?
This is Joanna Duck, who's going to tell you all about her paintings.
Hello, Barbara.
Hi, Joanna. We're delighted to have you here today.
It's nice to have you here.
Now, as I look at this wall, it looks to me like you cover a number of different media.
Yes, I do. I work in watercolor, oil, and pastel, and as you can see here, there are some represented, such as this one is pastel. This one is a combination of oil, of watercolor and pastel. There are some watercolor florals down here. I use these media to express myself in portraits, landscapes, still life, and florals. Most of what you see here this morning are landscapes. This particular landscape was done in Colorado in a canyon there called 11 Mile Canyon. It was started with watercolor washes of a dark value on watercolor paper. And as I began to notice shapes and figures come, I went to the pastel and finished it in pastel. This painting is an oil from Redbud Valley here in east of Tulsa. We did a special exhibit, all of us together, on Redbud Valley, and I thought you might be interested in seeing that this is one of the paintings from that exhibit.
The nice thing about that painting is I think it points out to our viewers that there are beautiful, lovely landscapes here in Oklahoma. You don't have to go to Colorado.
Very true. This particular landscape is from Arkansas. We visit Arkansas in the fall each year, and this was one of the scenes that we saw there. We are very conscious as artists of doing things from Oklahoma because we feel that Oklahoma should be represented primarily in our work.
Well, Joanna, it's a beautiful collection.
Thank you, Barbara. I enjoyed painting it.
Who are we going to meet next?
Well, this is Shirley Ward. She's going to tell you about her work.
Hello.
Hi, Shirley. Welcome to Focus on Art.
Thank you.
And you have also a very interesting collection of work. It's not all in this area, but we're going to be looking at just the things in this area.
Yes, this is part of a series that I have done on my memories of Sequoyah County, Oklahoma. My father was Indian, and if you're familiar with Sequoyah County, there are a lot of Indians that live in the area, and yet it's a rural community. And I wanted to do a series of my memories of growing up with this mixed culture. In the painting up here, I call it Panorama of Sequoyah County. And I wanted to reflect the fact that it was a rural community. I work in a non-representational way, even though you can see figures in the work. And I use, when I use non-representational, a lot of my emotions and memories are involved. So there is a background of my grandfather, my grandmother. In this painting, I have my father, my aunt, my grandmother, and my father as a small boy. And the whole series is based on my past and my memories that I want to portray to the public.
Well, that's wonderful. I think that here at the end of the 20th century, we're all beginning to realize how important family ties are to us, how important those people are in forming who we are today. So this is a wonderful group of paintings, and I think your ideas are absolutely spectacular.
Well, thank you.
Now, Diane, our next artist, isn't with us today, so
No,
you're
she
going to
isn't.
kind of have to be her spokesman.
This is Fran White Shirtlift's work, and why don't we look at this piece right up here. This is a barn, and you can see the very definite way and style in which she works. She's very precise. She makes a wonderful treasurer too, I might say. And she gets a nice technique with her watercolor because she uses texture and very fine detail work.
I think we could almost classify her as a photorealist.
I almost think you could. Yes, I do.
Okay, well, it's wonderful, and watercolor is such a difficult medium,
It
I think,
is.
to use to begin with, and then get this kind of super realism out of
Right.
that medium.
I
Very
agree.
fine artist.
Okay.
Okay, now we're going to cross over the gallery and meet Betty Sellars.
And this is Betty Sellars' collection of paintings here.
Well, Betty, this is a wonderful collection. It looks like even more than just paintings.
Yes, I like to draw, I think even better than paint, and I think I've got about as many media as there are here. This is probably what I have done more of. I've been doing these drawings, particularly of children, but I did one lady that was 86, and I used simply a variety of pencils, starting with graphite and going on to wax and carbon, and I work from photographs. I like to go somewhere that the child is comfortable. I only work on commission. And it can be a park, it can be your home, your playroom. Lots of time. I have a very good time with the children. I take a lot of pictures, and then we choose together, all of us, which is the key picture to work from.
Well, this is just beautiful, and your technique is wonderful. I have to admit to you that for years and years I taught drawing, so it's one of my favorite media,
Oh,
too.
great. I also like to do, and that's quite related, I like to do etchings, and of course they are drawings on metal and transferred to paper through a hand-operated press. And this is a collection of etchings and aqua tints, and it has been through the press twice, and I'm doing a series of these about times long ago, and this funny looking little girl here is me.
Oh, wonderful.
And that's my pretty sister.
Well, I have to ask you, Betty, where was this taken? Where were you when you were 6 years old?
Tulsa.
All right, so you're a native Tulsan.
Well, sort of.
All right.
This is the little house where I grew up.
Okay, well, it's just wonderful. And so you're inking each plate.
Each plate is
In a
inked
different color?
separately in any color that I want to. Then they are arranged, and the whole thing goes through the press once with me pulling carefully. And actually, the arrangement, this arrangement requires, since it has overlaps, 2 different arrangements. 3 once and 3 none at a time.
Thank you, Betty.
Thank you.
It's a wonderful collection. Okay, Diane, who's next?
This is Haroldine Howell.
Hi, Barbara. How are
Hi,
you?
I'm fine. How are you
Good.
this morning,
I'm fine,
Haroldine?
thank you.
We appreciate being here at Color Connection Gallery and seeing what a wonderful job you guys are doing.
Well, thank you, and it's nice to have you here.
Great.
I mainly work in pastels, and green tomatoes that never ripened last year in our yard is the subject of this. I use a lot of complementary colors. I try to push the color, reds and pinks and greens and purples. I probably would say more unorthodox colors.
Well, it's a wonderful combination. In fact, a very strong presentation for
Thank you.
pastels.
Thank you.
Very nice.
In this same context as organic matter, I am trying some new things in working with fiber, but also using my pastels with it. So this is what they call abaca, which is banana fibers, and to make the paper, and then to use the different colored pulps to make designs, and then I went in with it with the pastels to kind of bring them out. So this is something new and fun.
Okay, so you are making the paper yourself.
Yes, I am.
And
Yes.
where does one obtain banana fibers?
Believe it or not, our wonderful park department, Johnson Atelier, has it. And they also have flax and cotton linter, and you can go out there and just have all kinds of fun.
All right, so you went out to Johnson to make the paper,
Yes,
and then
to do this, and then come home and see what's in there and think, oh, gee, now what do I do? But anyway, this is something new and fun, and I hope that I can do a series of them.
okay, well, it's really wonderful, and of
Thank
course,
you.
the handmade paper is very exciting.
Yes,
Harold,
it is.
Haroldine, it's a beautiful collection.
Thank you.
Before we go on to our next artist, I think we should just stop and look at this beautiful pot that you have setting here. Who's
This is
by?
gorgeous. This is by Larry Elledge, and this is a raku piece, and I don't know how in the world he got this out of his raku kiln, but he did. And this is one of his trademarks, I believe, because several of his pieces have those ruffles on there, what I call ruffles.
Well, it's just exquisite. Okay, now who's our next artist?
This is Barbara O'Neill.
Hi, Barbara.
Hello?
I won't have any trouble with your name at all.
No, it's the same as yours.
Well, we're delighted to be here today. And
Thank
this
you.
is your collection
Yes,
behind
it
us.
is.
And
Yes.
it looks like, once again, a variety of media.
Yes, that's correct. I like to work in acrylic, pastel, and watercolor, but my favorite medium of all is the watercolor because of its spontaneity, and you do get a few surprises, and I guess I like surprises, whether good or bad sometimes. What I'd like
Okay.
to show you today is two of my recent paintings, which are collages, and these are a lot of fun to do. What I did in this particular instance was to tear up some previous watercolors. There are probably about 20 paintings represented in this one piece alone. Even though it is a lot of fun, I'm still looking for certain things in the painting. For instance, different shapes from the large, medium, and very small shapes to the colors and the values that I incorporate in the painting. So it's a lot of fun arranging and then mounting them on the surface. And I'm very happy. It's a colorful painting. It made me happy to do it, and I really enjoyed it a lot.
Well, you know, I can almost tell that by looking at it. It does have a wonderful, happy feel. Now, the one above that looks like you've used more landscape pieces than that.
Yes, and some paintings of doorways and houses. I more or less had a theme with that one, and it's entitled Housing Starts, which has made a lot of people laugh a little, and I enjoyed that too. The same principles apply: the shapes, the colors, the patterns, and the flow through the painting. So I did have a few things to think about while doing those.
Well, they're great.
Thank you so much.
Now, Barbara's been kind enough to volunteer to do a demonstration for us, and I believe you do a demonstration in the back room of the gallery.
Yes.
All right, let's go back
All right.
and see how these really come about.
All right, follow me, please.
Well, Barbara, now as we begin to look at you doing your watercolor, let's kind of go through this step by step.
All right.
First of all, you have carefully selected a particular kind of paper. This
Yes.
is just not regular typing paper or something?
No, normally I use a cold press Arches paper, but this one today is a Fabriano hot press. And the reason I like this is because it leaves some lovely blooms as you paint into the sky area. And I enjoy the spontaneity and the surprises that you get with this particular type of paper. Also, it's a very white paper, and I like that for the type of transparent watercolor that I'm doing today.
Okay, and before we actually get the brush on the paper there, we might look over here at your palette.
All right. It looks pretty messy, doesn't it?
Well, we
Actually, I
understand it.
cleaned it for you.
Okay.
And this is typically the way a palette does look in watercolor. I have my various colors together, for instance, all the yellows, and I put my reds together, blues, and then the earth tones on this end. This is just how I prefer to work. Every artist seems to organize their palette differently to suit them. I have no particular order in which I work, although at times I like to start with the sky and work down toward the foreground. And I think this is what I'd like to do today.
Okay. Now you're working from photographs, but
Yes.
you're not doing an exact representation of what you see, but you're taking elements of those and putting them into this.
These are photos that I took in Ireland last year, and this is the last painting of a series that I'm doing for an upcoming show in March. And I'm taking an element from this particular picture, which is one of the Franciscan priories in Adair County, Ireland. And this was such a nice shot of a nun on her way to Mass that I thought I would incorporate the two of them in a painting. And so what I have done is to choose a section of this particular photograph which incorporates the stained glass window.
Okay.
And this is what I'm more or less doing an interpretive drawing from my photographs. So this will be the stained glass window area of the priory. And then, of course, the nun is walking along, and she is drawn right down here in this corner. I've done a little heavier drawing than I normally do, and hopefully your camera can pick it up. I don't always draw on my paper before I start to paint. This is something I don't always do. Okay. But if I don't do that, I try to, at first, start out by thinking of where my lightest light and my darkest dark value is going to be, and also where my focal point is going to be. And I've decided now that it's going to be right around the priory itself. And so therefore, I need to have a dark and a light. This part right here, I'm deciding is going to be my lightest light, because I want the sun to come from the west in this direction. So I'll have my lightest light here, and therefore, right next to it, I'll have a dark. And I'm going to go ahead and paint that for you right now. Normally, I don't like to use a green for trees that is already straight from the tube. So I like to mix my greens. And what I've done here is mix a little cobalt blue and some cad pale. You notice I just dip right into I'm a very messy painter, terribly, and all of artists are not, but I am. So I just dip right in there and get more or less the color I'd like to have. And I'm just going to start by placing this color right next to the church, right here, which makes that light really start to show and gives me an idea of where I want to go in the painting. In doing my paintings, I like to vary the colors a lot, so I start adding extra colors in here, maybe even a little yellow on the edge. This is one thing that I have learned over the years, is to make a watercolor interesting, to vary the colors a lot. Barbara, as I'm mixing these colors and prepare to put my brush in the water, one thing we have to be very careful of is to not accidentally put it in your coffee cup.
Okay.
Coffee is very important to me as an artist, so I do have to watch this process.
Okay, well, be sure you get it in the proper
I'll try.
cup here. Okay, well, this gives us a wonderful idea about how you begin, how the watercolorist works, and I'm going to let you get back to work and catch back up with Dian.
Well, thank you for sharing this with me.
Thank you, Barbara. Well, Dian, that was a wonderful demonstration.
It was, wasn't it? Barbara did a wonderful job.
Well, she's very concise and really gives you the facts. I think all of our viewers are going to know how watercolor is done now.
I think so too.
Okay, we have another artist to meet, and we have more paintings to see. Who are we going to meet next?
We're going to meet Louise Grayson, who's primarily an oil painter.
Louise, welcome to Focus on Art.
Thank you very much, Barbara. I'm glad to be here.
Now, as I look at this collection of paintings, it appears to me that you are particularly interested in oil.
Yes, oil is my medium. I like it very much. I like the brilliance of the color and the buttery texture, and I like to paint in a painterly manner.
All right, let's step back here and take a look at a couple of these.
All right.
It looks like we kind of have two favorite themes, perhaps, people and landscapes.
Right, and people is really my favorite thing to paint. And I had done a series on students on the campus, and I found that I like to do their gestures, I like to do relationships between people, and express this through the bodily language of the person. And this one I particularly like because I tried to keep it in gray colors with just one bright note in it.
Okay, well, it's a wonderful painting. The one above, of course, is a landscape.
Yes, that's from Michigan. That's Lake Michigan, and that's another favorite spot, place that I've been in many times, and I have an emotional attachment to that, and so I keep going back to painting Michigan scenes.
Okay, well, I love this in the kind of the ambiance of the day. It looks like it wasn't a real bright day, but more of a moody kind of pastel day.
Right, I like to show the emotion that I feel when I look at the landscape.
Okay, well, this is a wonderful collection. Now we have the next artist who's not here. Could you kind of show us her work?
Yes, I'll be glad to. This is Ruth Lebo, who is an acrylic painter, and she paints in a painterly manner also, and that is difficult to do in acrylic. I think she has really been wonderful in her technique of using acrylic. It's painterly, it's expressive, and she also likes Colorado. She goes out there a lot, and this scene is from Colorado, as is this. Another theme is she does a lot of still life and flowers.
Okay, that's
See in that next picture.
that still life is kind of over there by Diane. Gee, Diane, that is a lovely painting. What do you like about that?
Oh, I don't know. You know, Ruthie has a way of doing her still lifes that brings them to life, and I really like the way she does it.
Well, the color, I think, is spectacular
I do
and
too.
certainly adds to that alive feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Louise, we appreciate your being here, and Diane and I now are going to travel across the room and see a couple of other artists.
Thank you very much, Barbara.
This is Renee Reed's work here. She is an acrylic painter. She couldn't be with us today. She works on watercolor paper and layers, acrylics and gloss medium.
Well, it gives you a wonderful leathery kind of texture.
It does.
I wonder if that painting is really as heavy feeling as it appears to be.
She will put acrylics down, and she'll put a few lines and squiggles and do what she does, and then she'll put her gloss medium over it and maybe do 3 layers of that, and then apply more acrylics until finally the paper can become very heavy. She says when you can no longer lift it, she's finished with the painting.
Okay, well, it's a wonderful painting style, of course, very non-objective in feel. Let's take a look at another one. I'm kind of interested in this one over here. Tell me about how she's decided to display that one.
She actually has hers framed and matted other places. She does not do her own, as many of us do. And he used a roller, it looks like to me, and she's had several people come in and be interested in her paintings and then ask that they be framed in this manner because it's over a roll and looks more scroll-like.
I know it's a very interesting framing technique, and of course, again, a very interesting painting.
I agree.
Now, Diane, as we move down to this next group.
Oh, yes. I can talk about these,
okay,
I think, fairly
step
easily.
right up there, very close.
Okay.
This group of paintings were done by Diane Church, and looks like you're a watercolorist.
I am a watercolorist, and I do like to use transparent watercolor. I do like to use layers and also big paintings. I am one of the smallest people in this group, and I seem to paint the biggest, and I feel like a little ant when I come in here carrying my big paintings. But this is an elephant size, which is 25 by 41. I painted the delphiniums first and wondered what I was going to do with the background, and then I just laid some color in and pulled out. I don't know how I achieved that background, but I did. I've had people ask me. It just kind of happened.
Well, it's a beautiful painting.
Thank you.
When we were talking to Barb, she was talking about putting light areas against dark areas to create a center of interest. And it looks like you have done the same kind of thing. In an area like, for example, the center of this flower, I think is one of those areas that demonstrates how the light against the dark really brings out the detail in the painting.
Well, it's important with a watercolor to have a play of light and dark because it is a soft medium. You do need to be able to, and a focal point is not always necessary. Some of the old instructors insist that you have a focal point, and then I've also had instructors say you really don't need one. The painting itself is a focal point, so who knows?
Okay, and the one that's hanging right below that is another one on handmade paper.
It was. I was in Taos and picked up a few pieces of handmade paper, and this is one of them. I prefer handmade paper when I'm going to work loosely, as I did with this. I just put paint on there and then brought out the flowers that I saw in it. I enjoy doing flowers. I do landscapes and buildings and other things, but I seem to gravitate back to flowers.
Okay, and we have one more flower painting here we might want to take a quick look at. Beautiful poppies.
Oh, the poppies were in bloom in Woodward Park, and they just were wonderful. I went over there and took pictures and did some drawings, and I thought I wanted to introduce a light color and have it be a vibrant color, and so the day was light and sparkling, and I wanted to convey that in my painting.
Well, Diane, that's a beautiful painting, and this is a wonderful collection.
Thank you, Barbara.
Well, let's check on Barb and see how her painting's coming along since we were here last. Barb, it looks like you've been busy while we've been looking around.
Yes, I have been. As you can see, I've covered the whole paper area now. And it's probably a good time to stop and take a breather and really analyze the painting at this point and see where I want to go from here.
Okay, well, it looks like you've been stressing that dark against light point that you made for us when we were here earlier.
Yes, I have been. I've been trying to do that.
Okay, and one thing, too, I noticed that I look up here at the photograph and it's very gray and beige.
Yes.
But then when I look at the painting, you have a lot of color incorporated into this.
That's called an artist's interpretation. That's something I like to do, is to work with color, and I consider myself a colorist, so this is what I do.
Okay, well, certainly a lot more exciting to look down there and see all of that beautiful color against color.
Well, thank you.
I really like this better than the beiges and the browns that we see in the photograph.
We all do that. We use a photograph as a starting point,
Yes.
and then we go and take our own license with it.
It's actually a reference source for artists, and then
Exactly.
we interpret it in our own way.
Okay, well, it's just wonderful. It's been a great morning, ladies. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Oh,
Diane.
we've loved having you, Barbara.
We have enjoyed it.
Thank you. For those of you at home, we appreciate your being with us, as always, for Focus on Art.